Hi, good morning or good afternoon. Very good timing because Eric, I would just say that we've got a Food Sense live streaming webinar. So thank you everyone for attending this morning. So ZP likes to do these webinars once a month, and it's just part of our commitment. We just say that everyone who's got a Food Sense, particularly Generation 4, gets personalized training, and Solron and I were just discussing that now. Everyone, if anyone's got technical questions, we do a weekly webinar. So we did have a weekly webinar yesterday where we answered all the technical questions, and then we do these webinars once a month. And I suppose you can think of it as continuous training. So if people leave the company and new people join, then the companies know that they can send somebody along to these webinars and they can get a kind of introduction and training, let's say. So just a very quick introduction to Zimmer and Peacock. We wouldn't do this as part of formal training, but we'll just do it just today. So we are talking about Food Sense Generation 4. We are talking about rapid testing in the food ingredients market, and we'll primarily touch on chili and ginger today. Now, ZP, myself and Solron are here this morning. We were launched in 2014. We are ISO 13485, so a lot of what we do is actually medical diagnostics. So our quality standards and our whole SOPs are all really around about making products that otherwise keep people alive or prevent them, help them in the treatment of diseases. So it's not that hard to go from kind of quality in medicine to quality in food productions, which is what we're doing here. We've got some facilities in Norway and the UK. This is the ZP team. I'm here and Solron is here. So you'll meet a couple of the team this morning. So as I say, everyone gets personal online training. So if you're a Food Sense Generation 4 user, it is so much easier to support you these days. We have weekly webinars and we do have monthly webinars, and this is part of that kind of monthly webinar format. Just to say that the monthly webinar format is consistent. So today is the 25th of January 2024, and we do have another webinar already booked on the 28th of February 2024. We tend to do a webinar in the morning, and when I say morning, our morning in Europe and our evening in Europe, because that way then we can support our colleagues in Asia, and we can support our colleagues in the US, Canada, and South Americas as well. This is Food Sense Generation 4. It's a pretty attractive piece of hardware, got a really nice user experience. It's smaller than previous versions that we've released, but in no way less. It is easy to use. The way we put the sensors in there. Once upon a time, we would talk about being careful you don't get liquids into the gaps. All those kind of problems have gone away. It's more accurate, and accuracy in part comes from the fact that now this is cloud enabled. And the cloud enableness is an important part of this, because it means that all the data gets stored in the cloud. So if somebody's got a concern about their data or needs some guidance, that's around accuracy, let's say. Is it accurate? Then we can actually look at the raw data and confirm it. So as I say, it's cloud enabled. It is multi-analyte. So what I mean by that is, this device today, you'll see the same device being used twice, once for ginger and once for chili. So chili and ginger are enabled on it. And also something called TAS, total antioxidative status. In some parts of the food industry, they use TAS to actually determine the shelf life of products. If you've got a high TAS score, then you probably have a higher shelf life than a product with a low TAS score. And also, if you want to make health claims on products, TAS is a way of understanding how many antioxidants are in a product. You'll see all this in a minute anyway, but this is the hardware. This is my hands. You get a sense of proportion here. You'll see Solron do a demo in a little bit where she'll run the device off her smartphone, and you'll see that there's obviously an on button. There's an LED strip around the front that kind of guides the user and tells the user about the status of the machine. When we say it's easy to use, the way the sensor's just put in there and then just clicked into place. So there's a very nice way of just clicking the sensor into place, and that really helps with the user experience. And there's no alignment. They just put that in there and off they go. The next bit then as well is that this is a multi-analyte platform. So in order to go from assay to assay, you will find that actually you just have to scan a QR code. Now, you may be watching this particular live stream on your smartphone, so it'll be hard for you to scan the code. But if you're watching a video, or I send you a recording of this later on, and I will send everyone a recording, you will see you'll see some QR codes pop up in a minute. So don't sweat that you can't scan them now. You can scan them later on instead. So mechanically really nice. It's an entire system. The software is really easy to use, and the app these days is available on the Play Store. I think this is really important for people in industry. iPhones are expensive. They are very nice, but they are expensive. And therefore, in industry, I think we find that people tend to be using Androids. But if somebody, is a private user, or they just happen to have an iPhone, then it's also usable with iPhones as well. So those QR codes, this QR code, if that's scanned off an Android phone, it will take you to the Google Play Store. You can install the software on your smart device. Now, the software, unfortunately, is only useful if you've got the hardware. But we're just saying to you that the software is already deployed, and it's the same for the Apple Store as well. If you've got an iOS phone, you can scan this QR code. It'll take you to the Apple Store, the Apple App Store, and you will be able to install this software there. When you open up the software, or the app rather, it will ask you to access your camera. All it's trying to do is actually, the first thing that it does is it's trying to find out, well, what assay do you want to run? So if we've delivered you chili sensors, then you've got a QR code. You scan the QR code and it's ready to do chilies. If you've ordered ginger sensors off us, you'll scan the ginger QR code and you're ready to do ginger. If you're more interested in measuring the antioxidants or the shelf life, then we've got the TAS sensor here, and you would scan that QR code here. Now you'll see this run by Solrun in a minute, but let me talk you through what you're going to see, and then you can actually see it happen. There's sensors, there's the meter, and then there's the app, and you'll see Solrun tell her phone essentially what to do by scanning the QR code. Now, the app, there's also a cloud system here. This is new for Generation 4. There's a cloud system. So all data goes to the cloud. I and Solrun cannot see that data. It's the end customer's data, and it's protected by their username and password. But it becomes important later on, and I'll discuss that. So the sensor goes into the meter, and the sample goes onto the sensor itself. The app tells the meter what to do, and the meter gives the data back to the app. The app then gives the data to the cloud, and the person gets a result on their phone. So in terms of chilies, it's Scoville heat units, SHUs. In terms of gingerol, it's milligrams per liter, which is actually ppm, parts per million. So it's milligrams per liter for gingerol or ginger, and Scoville heat units for chili. So you get a certain, and I say this to you, you get a certain speed and certainty. The reason I talk about speed and certainty is, especially in chili sensing. In chili sensing, I think that actually most people are not testing really. They're only doing what, the posh word for it is organoleptic testing, i.e. taste testing. So people are not really testing. And if they are testing, they're using HPLC. The thing about HPLC is, it's not speed and you're not certain about it. And what I mean by certainty is, well, I'll discuss the certainty of HPLC testing in a minute. But the nice thing about this system is the person gets the result, but also the data goes to the cloud. They don't have to look at this data, but if they so wish, they can log in online and see the raw data. And if they've got concerns, then actually they can share that data with somebody like Zimmer and Peacock, and we can look at the data and we can advise them. So you can suddenly see that this is a very different user experience that, once upon a time, you would get a certificate of analysis from some third-party test house, really no transparency on it. But with this, if you get a result and you're unsure about it, you can actually call in an expert like Zimmer and Peacock by just, when I say share the data, you're not emailing data to us. You're inviting us to look at the raw, at the data actually in the database. So it's very sort of, the data doesn't get sent across by emails and all this kind of clumsiness. No, the data all resides in the same place. The nice thing about this database is that the user's ID is recorded, the sample ID is recorded, the time and date of the sample is recorded. So suddenly you've got a lot of traceability on test. So you've got speed, certainty, and transparency with this system as well. So it's a real Internet of Things kind of connected device. What that certainty means is, I'm not going to go into it in this webinar today, but it means that we can look at ZP, or even the customer can actually look at the raw data and make sure it looks good. I'm not expecting them to interpret these peaks, but these peaks are the fingerprint for capsaicin, for example. And so, in fact, we can tell, A, is it capsaicin? And B, is there a strong signal? Is it clear to you that there's a peak here? Or in fact, is there clear that actually there's no peak? So we can do that kind of, quality check as well. So that's the transparency part that I was mentioning. As I say, today you will see chili and ginger. Solran here is actually blending up some chili peppers. I suppose, we've worked with chili peppers a lot. We've worked with chili powders an awful lot. Chili sauces. I'm tending to start to find that actually chili peppers seem to be happening, well, in sort of South America a bit. Chili powders, a lot of testing in India. Chili sauces seem to be happening in kind of Malaysia and Indonesia. Different parts of the world seem to be in different parts of the supply chain. And then there's also the ginger version as well. So in Europe, people are quite interested in these ginger shots. And we're also able to test gingerol as well. And you'll see a demonstration. Now, what this means is that essentially this one box, which is a fairly low-cost box, is not just one test. It's actually at least 2 tests or even 3 tests today, chili and ginger. And also, as we're very interested in hearing from the end users, because at ZP we have over 40 tests in our technology, from glucose to pH to sodium. So we've got other analytes, even fructose in here. We've got other analytes that might be interesting to the food industry. And as we discover what other things people are actually interested in, then we can add them to the literally to the menu of FoodSense. We can generate new QR codes and add them to the FoodSense. So we are adding glucose at the moment, for example, and we're also adding pH as well. So if there's new tests that you would like to see, please reach out to us and let us know. The problem with HPLC is it's fundamentally expensive. So the way that some people try to measure, for example, the hotness, this applies both to actually the hotness of chilies and also the pungency of ginger. You've got HPLC and you've got FoodSense. Now, HPLC is very expensive. It's expensive to buy and it's very expensive to run. It requires organic solvents. It requires something like a master's level chemist to run it. It requires what we call columns. These are the things that do the separation. It's a piece of kit that, and to prepare a sample for HPLC can take something like 5 hours. So it's actually expensive because it's expensive equipment, expensive to run the tests. What it means is there's a lot of under testing. People only test one part of a sample, and they don't do lots of tests, and the results are slow. And it's a black box with no sense of error. So what I mean by that is, people get these certificates of analysis off the HPLC. They go, oh, well, that must be right, and file it. And there's no real understanding that actually is that result even, is it correct? And I'll talk into that a little bit in a bit. But FoodSense, much lower cost, lots of tests are possible. So what I mean by lots of tests, let's say you've got a bag of chili powder in, or a crate of chili powders in. You could actually do lots of testing and get the average of that chili powder, because chilies and chili powders are what we call very heterogeneous. Capsaicin, the molecule that gives you the spiciness, is not evenly distributed throughout the powder or the product. It's actually in hot spots and low spots. So you've got to sample in several places, do several tests, and then average it to really understand the overall hotness of that product. It's definitely fast. You'll see that today. And it's a transparent process that you do the process, you get the result, and you get the raw data as well. So it's very transparent in that respect. HPLC is a complete black box. You sample a small sample from probably a larger sample. It goes to the lab where they do an extraction. They have to do a dilution. Then they actually have to put it on the HPLC column, which is an injection. And then they get what's called a chromatogram. And maybe they're not even doing this. They're just tasting it. So your competition is actually somebody's taste buds. But if they're doing it more scientifically, this is what's happening. they get a chromatogram, and then they turn that raw signal using a calibration line into Scoville heat units. There's a lot of steps in that process, and at any point when you've got a step, you can have a error. So people don't talk about it, but it's expensive to do. It's not transparent because you're not the one doing it, and the errors can easily be 25%, because for every manual step that you've got here, you can have, let's just say, 5% error, 5% error, 5% error, 5% error. 5% errors is 25%. You don't need much. There's so many steps involved. It's not hard to see that actually there's error involved. And if you sent the same sample to 3 different labs, you'd actually get 3 different results. It's absolutely guaranteed that that's going to happen to you, because people are very, very precious. I think what we tend to find out is that actually in India, people are doing HPLC testing. In other parts of Asia, actually, it's not necessarily happening so much. So there's less of a, I got this from the HPLC lab, is a very much a thing in India, but not necessarily elsewhere. But if you did send the same sample to 3 different labs, I absolutely guarantee you that you'll get 3 different results. So it's a bit of a problem with this HPLC. And if you sent the same sample to the same lab on 3 different occasions with 3 different names, you give them 3 different names, so the lab is kind of essentially blinded that you're sending them the same sample, absolutely guarantee you that you'll get 3 different results. So there's a real problem. And when you look at these certificates of analysis that come from third-party labs, they tell you, we're using an AOAC method. That means it's HPLC. This is the result, 11,636 Scoville units. And people genuinely take that as an absolute number, that's absolutely the truth. But it's not. It's plus or minus an error. But the error is never reported. So no sort of traceability, no transparency on that result. Now, what I have here is demo. So we like to be quick and efficient with your time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off, I'm going to stop sharing. I'll mute myself. I'll turn off my camera, and my colleague Solon will give you a couple of demos, and then I'll just do a summary at the end, and then we're done. So we hope you're nice and efficient with your time this morning.
Right. Okay. So hi, my name is Soren, as Martin said, and I will run you through a couple of demos with ginger ale and with chilies. So first thing I want to show you is the device that we're working with. So I'll zoom in like this, and this is the FoodSense device. So it fits inside the palm of my hand. You can also take the part just in order for you to clean it, because that is important when you're working in the lab. And here you have the 3 pins that help you assess and test your data. Here's some sensors. They have this cartridge around them so that it's easier for us to handle the sensors without touching the electrodes, which is in this area right here. So when we want to test a sample, we will we'll push down the part of the device that's movable. We'll insert the sensor like this, and we will push it back up, and then it has connection with the pins. And in order for us to test the sample, we need to prepare it. So what I will do next is I will show you how to prepare a sample. So today I thought we can test a powder. So I've already sheathed it and just weighed it out 0.1 grams of a chili powder. And the next thing I will do is I will add some chili pop buffer. The chili pop buffer works as an electrolyte and also makes the same environment for all the sauces and powders and stuff we're testing, and hence will give a repeatable environment across our different samples. So what I will do is I will pipette 10 milliliters of the chili pop buffer into, or actually 9.9 milliliter of the chili pop buffer into the vial, and I will show you up close. So here, I will add it into the vial just like that. And then I will make sure to mix it. Like Martin said, so this is the vial with my powder, and yeah, it's coarse and it's not as homogeneous. So I'll try to shake it a bit and get it as like homogeneous as possible, and then I will add some into the vial, and I will add the buffer. And as you can see, like all the powder is falling to the bottom of the vial, but I will use the vortex just in order for me to mix it real well. And then since this is a powder, it's a bit harder to mix than, for instance, some of the sauces that we're working with. So we'll just give it some time to just mix real well, so that it has the time to sort of extract that capsaicin from the powder into the solution. And if it's really big chunks and bits, I would even let it sit on the bench for quite some time, just to give it that time to really extract. But that depends on the pungency of the chilies, and yeah, also the sizes of the particles. So as you can see, it's not a homogeneous solution. It has quite a lot of particles, but the capsaicin is being extracted into the water based buffer. So what we will do when we want to test it is we will still just pipette into the top of it and take out the solution and not the powder in the bottom. And even though we get some particles into the sample we're pipetting onto the sensors, that is totally okay. So I will show you the app in order for you to see how to set up the device. So this app is already installed on my phone, and I will also show you the QR code scanning. So I will click that symbol which is next to the chili sensor, because right now I've chosen an assay already, but let's say I didn't. So I'll click that and it says scan the sensor. I will scan the QR code that is with the sensors. Now we went really quick. I can do it one more time just for you to see it. So scan the sensor and scan the QR code, just like that. And here you see that it's choosing the chili sensor assay, and it's important that you use the right assay, because there are different settings for different sensors and different assays that you want to test. So it is important for you to get the correct measurements for that. You can also change the test settings. So if I click that test settings button, I can choose to give it a sample ID, a cluster name, and operator ID, SL is my initials. And it's just to make it easier for you to sort through your data when you want to look through your data on Julie, which I will show you later. It's also ordered according to date and time. So if you don't fill in the sample ID and cluster name, don't worry about it. You will still be able to sort it according to dates. Yeah, date and time. So now we'll go to assay. This powder was prepared with a dilution factor 1:100, because I do expect it to be fairly pungent. So I will click on the 100 button like that. And then it also has some instructions for you here. So place and lock the cartridge. We already did that. Mix the sample well, and then apply sample to sensor. So I will do that. I will apply 50 microliters onto the electrodes of the sensor. So let me show you. Okay, so just mix this a bit, and then I will pipette just like this, just like that. And you can see that there are still some like particles and stuff in my pipette tip. And then let me just move this a bit. Then I will pipette onto the electrodes of the sensor right in this area here. So make sure to cover all the electrodes, and also be careful not to scratch the surface of the electrodes. Then I will click start measurements, and I'll give it half a minute to finish the measurement. So right now what it's doing is running through some cyclable tomograms, assessing peaks and area below the peaks, and calculating just how much capsaicin we have in our sample according to what those curves look like. And it's also uploading the data to Julie, where it's analyzing the data. So now I finished, and you can see that it came out with a scope heat units of 77,000, almost 78,000. And it also says upload complete, which means it uploaded to Julie. And it also gives you the results in micromolarity and ppm, depending on your preference. So let me show you. So wait, I'll just log back in. Yeah, it's all good. So then let me show you. So here's Julie. And I will, click refresh so that my latest data uploads. And then I'll, click data it shows. And refresh. And here's my data. And you see that it looks at the peaks and assesses just how much capsaicin I have in my sample. So now we will test some ginger samples.
And I just want to say that that's, so when people are like saying, well, can you confirm my data for us? That's the bit that we can come in and actually look at the raw data for them. So as Solomon says, look, they get a value of 78,000 on the phone, so people are happy. But of course, you've no transparency when it comes to HPLC. Well, how do you know it's right? You know, how do you know it's just a number? No, we've got the transparency. So I'll turn off my camera and microphone, but that's the bit that we often come in and just check for people to give them that kind of certainty that what they're getting as a number is backed up by the data, and we can back up where that data is really coming from, and we can explain what it really means. But we're not going to do it in this demo today, but we do understand the science behind that data. It's not just a squiggly line. It means something, and it's electrochemistry, and we love it.
All right, so next thing I will do is to test a ginger sample. So this is just a ginger shot sample that we have. So in order for me to test that, I'll also need to prepare it with a ginger buffer that we have. So I will pipette 10 microliter of this sample into a 100 microliter of the sample into a vial, and then I will add 900 microliters of the ginger buffer. So the reason why I do a 1:10 ratio now is because this one is less pungent than the chili sample that we worked with earlier. So I will pipette 100 microliter of the chili, of the ginger shot into a vial, just like that. And then I will add 900 microliters of the ginger buffer. Just like this, add it like that. And you see this sample is way more homogeneous than the chili powder that we worked with before. So here you can see that it's already looking fairly homogeneous, but we'll still vortex it just to make sure that we have a homogeneous solution, just like that. And I'll show you again. So it looks like this. And now I will go to the app. And I will scan the QR code for the ginger assay. Now you see that the screen shows ginger sensor instead. I'll go to test settings and I'll just change the sample ID to ginger, just so that it's easier for us to distinguish them later. So I will, I have already inserted a new sensor. So just like that. And then I will go to assay, click go to assay. I have a dilution factor of 10. I will insert sensor, apply sample to sensor. So again, I will apply 50 microliters because 50 microliters is a sufficient volume to cover the LHS of the sensor. So let me show you in a close-up. So just like that, I will pipette it onto the sensor. Like this. And then I will go to my app and click Start Measurements. And now it's running for another half minute. And it's important that after you apply the sample onto the sensor, that you click the Start Measurements fairly quick, or at least the same time interval that you use for all your sample testing, because these organic molecules do like the surface of the sensor. So if you let it rest on the sensor for quite some time, it will come out as more pungent than what it's supposed to be. So here you see that we don't have this gold heat units because now it's ginger ale we're working with and not chilies. And you can see that we get the results back in milligram per liter micromolarity. And it also says upload complete, which means that we already have the data in Julie. So let's go to our Julie and see what refresh. And here you see the ginger sample came up. And here you see the convenience of changing the sample test ID, that we get it's easier to sort through the data and look at what we have. So here, if we look at the data, you get oxidation and reduction peaks, and it's assessing those peaks to say just how much ginger ale you have in your sample in particular. And it's also giving you the micromolarities. And this is your raw data. And so usually if you're in the test lab and you want a result real quick, you will look at that app, the screen of your app, and see those results and record them. But if you really want to assess your data, like Martin said, and see what happens if something is out of place, or just look at your raw data just to confirm your suspicions, then you can really look into Julie and see all the analyzed data and see what exactly are we looking at, which is a big strength that that this device, the generation 4 food sense device, has. So these sensors are one-time use sensors because, again, the capsaicin and ginger ale do like the surface of the elytras quite a lot. So if you would test them over, the results will come out as stronger and stronger, or more concentrated. So this is the device, and it's designed for a convenient use in the lab. So that's why it has a lot of functionality that are very practical for someone working in the lab. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Solran. So I appreciate you. So we just did a couple of demos, and I suppose it's, it really says something about speed and certainty, because the speed was Solran took both those powders, prepared them really quickly, got a result really quickly, and now those goods are ready to be shipped or ready to be used actually in the process. Whereas normally you'd be kind of, you may be sending it outside lab and it'll take several days. And if she wants to confirm it, she can do another test really quickly as well. So appreciate that. And as you saw, that technology is really robust, that in real time, prepared the samples, put the samples on the sensor, ran the electronics or the meter, everything went to her app, it went up to the cloud, stored it on the cloud, and gave her results on the phone, and the job is all done. And then later on, if her supervisor comes to her and says, show me the data, she knew where to find it. When she ran it is there, her user ID is all there as well. So it's all kind of stored up in the cloud. So in summary, it's a very rapid, gives you certainty and a transparent way of actually getting objective measurements, either pungency of ginger or the hotness of chili products. And so that's our rather monthly webinar. If you've got any questions, reach out to us at ZP. We do a weekly webinar where we answer technical questions. And if anyone's a user, we do personalized online training. And then when you've actually got your data going to the cloud and you're looking to kind of get some confirmation that everything's good, you can see how quickly we can actually see the real data in the cloud and make sure that, you know, it's very distinctive, very sort of, you know, that we know what the data should look like and we can check very quickly that everything's running okay. So thank you to our guests this morning. It is appreciated. And if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Okay, thanks so much. Have a good rest of the day.